gamers, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 13 of Ropai Gamma, the Gamers Podcast. I am your GM Byron, and of course with me is my co-host Howard.
Greetings.
We're back. Yay! I'm actually happy to...
Right? It's only been out a week,
What?
right? We've
Yeah,
only been...
it's only been a week. It's felt like more, though. It's felt like longer.
Cool.
And actually, I am happy to report that the changeover has finished. We are now on the new server, and by the time this posts, I should have the archives page up.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I also realized, though, that we need to update the contacts page, too, because, like, I still have Liz listed as my co-host, and it's a couple of years old. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to have the archives page finished by the time this posts on Sunday. So, yay! Because I'm sure actually at this point in time, like, none of the links are working for the old episodes.
Probably not.
So, and of course Liz is like, you're gonna have to go back through every post and change. I'm like, no, not I'm making an archives page. Fuck that. So, anyway, so how have you been, man?
Oh, fair to middling, dude. Just, life in general. Doing a lot of stuff with Shaintar, doing a lot of stuff with Shaintar projects and things like that. So it's been kind of hectic trying to run games and do collaborative stuff and do the new project. But it's coming rewarding. As of yesterday, I got all of my contributors for the actual project, which is the For Money project. I'm excited about that.
Oh, cool.
That's moving forward at pace, and hopefully I'll be giving a big announcement of exactly what we've been doing here in the next, hopefully the next podcast or so.
Sweet.
So, but as far as actually in gaming, that's actually been kind of cool. I've been doing.
Oh, well, start us off.
All right. Well, the main thing, of course, obviously, is the Shaintar game. It was interesting. I ran into it. I'll tell you one thing about global collaboration. You run into odd little circumstances. And one of the odd circumstances you run into is, when you're running your own game, you can time things however you wish. But when you're actually part of a global effort, timing becomes tricky because everyone else is moving sort of around you. And so I'll give you an example. There was I keep mostly with the timeline because it's sort of my responsibility.
Right.
And I needed to run a game for a tie into a convention that was happening a few weeks ahead of my current timeline. Because the way, as I've explained, Justice in Life, it's not like everyone is day for day. We go by seasons, and as long as your game happens within the season, so you pretty much stay within a few months of each other. It's pretty cool. But anyway, so my main character...
That actually sounds like a decent way of trying to mitigate it some.
It is. Oh, it's great. So what ended up happening is, I got this thing is like, well, we need you to run a game here for this, and we need this to happen here for this major convention that the creator and the Justice in Life director were involved in. And I'm like, huh. So... okay, so we in the game we got to port, and my main NPC Wolfhaven is just basically went to the ranger outpost just to check on things. Comes back, it's like, well guys, I gotta go. Not initially planned. I didn't have a whole lot of time to prep for it, and I just sort of turned over to Ricky's character, his player character, and was like, you're in charge, and then my character just went riding off so I could on another event, so that the timelines worked, because I realized that if Wolfhaven stayed with the group, they would, by the time they got back to their hometown of Echelon, the commanding post, the events that should have transpired would have already passed. So Wolfhaven would not have been able to do it, collaboratively speaking. So in order for the collaborative effort to work, my character just had to GTFO in the middle of a mission. It was pretty funny.
All of a sudden, messenger comes up, Wolfhaven, fuck. All right, you're in charge. Bye.
That's actually how it happened. Wolfhaven walks into the outpost, comes back, and the player characters are standing there. And I was emoting that Wolfhaven looked pissed, and he walks up, and the player characters actually intersected him before he got to the rest of the party. And like, "What's up?" And Wolfhaven's like, "I have orders. I have to leave." Congratulations, you're promoted to sergeant. You're in charge. Here are your orders. Here's what I need you to do. Goodbye. Have a wonderful day. He hops on his horse and rides out. And the player characters are standing there going, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're on your own now. And they kind of looked at me and looked at each other, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is happening. So one of the joys of collaboration. But it does make life interesting because, sometimes I feel that in role playing games as a GM, we want everything to work perfectly all the time, right? And so sometimes I feel
Well,
like things,
mostly.
or when there's a problem, it's planned out ahead of time. But this,
No.
well, at least in my
I
games, but
actually, I actually like the occasional curveball. I like being kept on my toes sometimes. Sometimes.
well, that's one of the things that collaboration does well because at any given moment, like something could happen and like I have to adapt, like in real life, like a military situation. So it was absolutely hilarious. The game went very well. Ricky's character got beat up again, which was nice. But actually, they're but what's interesting about it is this that I have actually trained this particular group to be wiser than other player groups, and here's what I'm saying. Their mission was to protect the HVT, the high value or HVA, high value asset, meaning the far speaker that they were escorting back to Echelon. Okay,
Hmm.
they got attacked. She got kidnapped to be a sacrifice in a bloody ritual to a new entity within Shaintar. More magical stuff that you and I need to talk about. And their plan revolved around getting her out. Had nothing to do with taking out the enemies. It had nothing to do with revenge. It had nothing to do with killing everything on the map. They had one job. That was to get her out. And they threw themselves, they worked as a team, and the plan was entirely focused, and they worked seamlessly to get her out of there, and they were successful. It caused them great consternation. He got badly wounded. Some of the other ones got messed up, and bad things happened to them. But their objective was to get her out, and most player characters do not have either the maturity of the mental capacity to see beyond whatever enemy is right in front of them. We've talked about this. The tunnel vision you get.
Hmm.
I'm attacked. I must kill everything. And I use this all the time. I love using this against them. Like for example, in the previous game, when they're going against Red Store, the Red Store lit the wagons on fire. Red Store wasn't there to kill them. Red Store was there to burn the wagons. They ended up losing a third of their supplies and almost lost more than that, except one of the player characters finally realized what was going on. All Red Store was doing is delaying them until the wagons burned down. In this instance, if they'd taken the time to try to kill everything on the map, she would have been sacrificed before they ever got to her. But this group plays very intelligently because the question they always ask themselves, and it's what I try to teach people, is what is your mission? If your mission is to get this one person out, then don't fight everything on the map.
Yep.
Open up a hole,
Fight whatever you need to fight.
Fight what you need to fight to get your target out, and then after that, run like hell. This group is disturbingly good at it, probably because they've been in my games, and my games are cruel masters. If you don't learn strategy and tactics quickly, you die or you fail. So that's been going. Wednesday night game, that's been going kind of interesting. They're beginning to work better as a crew. I told you before how there was a lot of dissension in the ranks for my Wednesday night Star Wars Rise of the Empire game. We've talked about it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of butting heads, really powerful personalities that aren't really getting along. They're finally beginning to at least jokingly talk about their differences, if that makes any sense. Like, they're still at each other's throats.
Is this the group that I had Skipper Dan with?
Yes.
Oh, God.
So that group, they're beginning, and they're finally moving forward on the mission. They're actually doing a very good job. And their current mission is to attract the attention of the Empire.
Well,
that's their actual job. Oh, I know. It's the one thing they do brilliantly well. Yeah.
Considering the game I sat in on, yeah, that shouldn't be too hard.
Oh yeah. That they're basically the whole point is that they managed to recover the cube, the data cube, and so their commander was like, well, we need time to analyze what's on this cube. But the problem is that we have the Imperial Inquisitor, or not, well, the Imperial Agent, not an Inquisitor. I misspoke. The Imperial Agent Drake is breathing down our necks all the time. He seems to be one step ahead of us, but he seems to have a real, keen interest in taking you guys. So what we want you to do is go out in the galaxy and attract his attention. Lead him on a wild goose chase. Give us time to analyze the data. So that's what they're doing. They're literally just leading him on a goose chase.
Sweet.
And believe it or not, this is actually something they are very good at doing. But for my final, I will tell you the most important bit of news. After a good God 6-7 month hiatus, Rocket's campaign is back up and going.
Nice.
One that's been going on forever is back up and going. We've had the last two Fridays. We've had sessions. Hopefully this one will have it, and it's getting interesting. We're in the final phase now. Gur got captured. The armor neck battle dog, and he is being. It's another thing I like to do. He's being tortured, but he's not being tortured. The situation is that they are. The Inquisitor, and this is an Inquisitor, who is trying to get the information, has more or less ripping memories out of his brain to try to figure out, to learn what he knew. But the interesting thing is the character doesn't know this information because it was either locked away, it was before he was given intelligence, or for whatever reason. So long and the short of it is, these are questions that he has been trying to find out the answers to for most of the game. So in a weird way, the Imperial torturers are actually revealing to him the information that he needs. But the problem is, if they get it first, then they will be able to use it to do things to him, and maybe be able to capture and destroy his friends. So part of him wants to, see the information, but part of him wants to keep it out of Imperial hands. So what does he do?
I don't know.
So he's in a really interesting moral quandary, and of course the rest of them are this is set so late in the Empire that the Empire are acting like bandits now, because remember the Empire's collapsed, Coruscant has fallen, and the Empire broke up into a lot of like warring warlords like Warlord Zinj and all that sort of stuff. So it's during the Warlord era.
Okay.
So a lot of the Imperial commanders that have ships have turned to piracy because they no longer have like large scale operations.
And the endless resources.
So the player characters popped into Nar Shaddaa and got caught up in an Imperial piracy. They're actually the Imperials are using Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters and assault shuttles to pirate ships into and out of the system. And they got caught by it. Of course, they think it's this big, conspiracy. Oh God, and it's really it's just the Empire desperately in need of fuel, supplies, and weapons. Well, an Imperial remnant. And so their ship is being overrun by and keep in mind, during this period you have this weird juxtaposition where you have, let's say, the small fleet of like 3 or 4 Star Destroyers and support ships that may have, Dark Troopers on board, or they may have Space Marines on board, or they may have cloaking, some cloaked ship on board, and yet they don't have enough fuel to keep the Star Destroyers running, so they have to stay in one place until they can raid for fuel. So because everyone grabbed whatever they grab on the way out. So they may have super weapons. They may have super soldiers. It's a grab bag. So pretty much I just look through the manual like, oh, that looks cool, and I send that at them.
Nice.
So, yes, you would really enjoy this period of the game because it's an absolute crapshoot for everybody. I mean, everything's up in the air.
I love how the tables turned, because when the Imperials did go to the Remnants, and the Republic, and then the Alliance turned into the New Republic, the positions switched.
They did.
The Alliance had to go from the guerrilla tactics they were used to using into actually, grabbing and holding onto territory, whereas the Empire, not having the great resources, had to go guerrilla warfare. And actually, it made the comment. It's like, some of the warlords actually learned from the Alliance well, and were annoying the shit out of the Alliance, out of the New Republic.
Yep, and that's exactly what's happening. Is that we're in that transition period where the Empire is switching tactics, and the main reason this Inquisitor has captured Gur is torturing him for information is because he believes that whatever information is locked in Gur's brain will give him an advantage so that he can, take over the remnant.
Hmm.
He is now just another warlord looking for an edge on his competition,
Yep.
and he thinks that Gur will have it. And what's really funny is Gur is treating him, and because he made a comment, Gur's like, because player characters are. You remember I post that thing like where it shows the T-Rex. I've got a hat, a whip,
Oh
and
yeah.
a horns or whatever. I'm gonna roll intimidate. Player characters always assume like they're always brash and brazen. They never. In a situation where they should be terrified, they always pretend like they're not. And we've had this discussion before that player characters really have a hard time playing any kind of vulnerability.
Yeah.
But in this instance, he was making comments like about the Empire. He's like,
Actually,
to
I've,
the
I've, I've I've got a story about that
all right,
someone told me.
all right,
Remind me
put a
of it.
pin in it real quick, and then I'm wrapping up, and you can tell it.
Okay.
But so the bottom line is so he made the the point to the Inquisitor. He said to the Inquisitor, he's like, if you made me, shouldn't you have all this research? Shouldn't you be able to just look in the research and find find the information you need? And the Emperor, or the Imperial Inquisitor, is like, you fool, you have no idea what's going on, because the player characters are completely oblivious to the collapse of society around them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like they don't. It's not like I don't. Talk, I mean, it's on the news, but they're so
They
stuck.
don't fully. They're so used to the standard of the Star Wars universe, which is the Alliance versus the Empire, and the Empire's
Yes.
the big baddie. That when you get into the expanded, that's actually one of the reasons why I don't tend to go into the expanded universe much, unless it's completely my own shit. Um, because they're not used to dealing with the fact of the Empire's not that actually. I mean, yeah, they're a threat, but they're nowhere near as much as they used to.
No, and that's the thing, and the Inquisitor was like, looking at this, he's trying to get information out of Gur, and he's like, are you a moron? Do you not understand what is happening? Because I mean, he's not going to educate him because there's no reason to. But it's so funny that the player characters are stuck in this concept of the Empire as this big, huge organization. What they don't realize is that over the course of the game, the Empire has become more and more fractured, and now the Empire is quite literally just almost as broken up as the Alliance was to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm running one game in which the Empire is rising to power, and one game in which the Empire is declining in power.
There's some philosophy for you.
So there you go. What I'm doing in gaming.
All right. Well, the one story I wanted to tell was I think it was Chris and Tim were in a game or were running a game where they had to deal with player characters. Definitely, they're like, I'm the hero of the story, so therefore I'm a big badass, and everyone should respect me. Didn't work out too well. They went into a kingdom. They were granted an audience with the king, and one of the player characters was just like, "What's up?" Just like trying to like be buddy buddy with the king, and the king's like, "You insolent bastard! What the hell are you doing?" Um, and then I think he said something, and then like one of the other player, I might be mixing stories here, but basically, so we got one player character, trying to be all like, hey, I'm your equal, and the king's like, fuck you. And then one of the other player characters like actually killed the king. I was like, I don't like the way he's dealing with us. I'm just gonna kill him. And it's like, what? So he did, and so then they had to run the hell out of Dodge, out of the castle, out of the capital, and out of the kingdom, and they're never allowed to go back there because they are wanted for high treason and murder of the king. Because the player character didn't quite realize that, oh wait, we're low level heroes. We can't take on an army yet.
I really, next time I have a player, I think I'm going to do that when I have like second or third level. Now, I usually tell people ahead of time, since I'm I guess a nicer GM in one respect, and when they're going to like talk about a hut, I explain to them, I'm like, this is a hut. He's a crime lord. He's a big fat slug, but he has an army of high-powered individuals, and he has access to infinite amounts of money, and if you screw with him, he's going to kill you. So when you walk in there and you disrespect him and I have you executed, don't bitch and moan to me. It's your fault. Most player characters, when I give them the spiel, because I'm usually pretty good with my spiels, realize who the people are they're not supposed to screw with. But one of these days, I'm going to get some cocky young player who's going to go into a hut, throne room and talk back to a hut, and I'm going to have to kill him.
I almost was that person at one point. Because I remember I was playing a character that made the sad mistake of actually responding back to the hut in Huttese.
Oh, nope, never do that.
No. Yeah, I learned that. He almost played me right there. I was like, oh, sorry. I groveled. Happily. Happily groveled. I was on my knees. I was on my stomach. I was like, please forgive me, sir. And he was like, all right.
So, what have you been doing in gaming other than Epic Game? Oh, by the way, last Epic Game was epic.
Well, thank you. I would have to agree. It was good to get back into it because we hadn't had Epic Game in almost I think it was almost a month. Just to schedule, various people's schedules, including my own, because I mean there were 2 weeks there. I mean you and I were off at Gen Con, and then the next week Liz was off at Intervention. So, but it was good to have that back. It's looking like we might not have it again for another 2 weeks. I'm hoping we can get a game in this week, but I'm dealing with what I'm dealt. But it was really good to get back into that, making some progress. Your character is giving me a challenge.
Wait, why?
Why? Because you're killing everything in the first round.
Oh yeah, no, okay, yeah, that, okay. I thought you were talking about role player. No, yeah, no.
No.
Dude.
Stats. Role playing, you're fine. Stats, your challenge. And I say
Okay.
you're not annoying yet.
No. You need, in order to completely rock my character's world, you need to throw me up against something that is not evil, undead, draconic, or an outsider.
All right, you asked for it.
Throw me up against an army of good kobolds, and I'm dead.
Nope. I got one a little better.
Okay, that's fine. And that's this. The bottom line for my character is that as long as stat wise, as long as I'm facing anything of the evil alignment, I'm going to be doing massive amounts of damage in addition to being a tank. The minute you start throwing me up against something that doesn't trigger my and this is the truth. This is the inherent flaw of paladins. They're one-trick ponies. As long as they're facing forces of evil and necromancy and dragons or whatever, they're fine. But put them up against mundane, just regular thugs, and they more or less suck. They really, really do.
Well, I think you'd still be,
No, I suck. Here's why. Yes, I have a high AC. It makes it almost impossible to hit me. But it would just be one of those really, really... It's like watching Dragon Ball Z where they punch each other for 16 episodes. Finally, one guy lands a blow which blows up the world. It's not that he won. It's just they have to find a new planet to fight on. So, that's what would happen. If you throw me up against something that doesn't trigger my special abilities, I'm doing 1d8 plus 6 damage. That's it. You throw them up even a moderately, not even a high level, a mid-level enemy or a couple mid-level enemies that don't trigger my special abilities, the best I can do is drop flaming or something on my sword and do an extra 1d6. But if these things have an average of 50, 45 or 50 hit points, I'm only doing an average of 5 or 6. Maybe 8 if I put flaming on it, right?
Well,
it will take me all freaking night to grind through one guy.
Well, but see, that's the thing is I'm still not looking to do one-on-one with everyone. I mean, it is a group thing, A.
Dude, but if you put a fellow on the mat, you're screwed because he can kill everything.
Well, I'm gonna see about that. I do still have one. I do still have one trick up my sleeve for you that wasn't what I just thought of. I've got an ace in the hole that I've been wanting to throw at you that will at least trip you up a little.
Something that would be interesting. Are there any incorporeal creatures that aren't evil or necromantic?
Incorporeal that are not evil or undead.
because that's what you need to throw at us. And here's why: as long as it's not evil or undead, it doesn't trigger my abilities. If it's incorporeal, most of Matt's like uber power just goes out the wayside. Like his slashing weapons would have little or no effect on it, or much
Well,
reduced.
that's not entirely true. In D&D and in Pathfinder, magic weapons, even if they do not have the effect incorporeal thing, still have a 50% chance.
But
Granted, it's a 50% chance.
so if you could find something, some enemy that fit the bill, where there were some enemy that was magically active that had a,
Well, that's the thing, though. Even with incorporeal, it could be evil and incorporeal. It's still going to toss you, because you still have a 50% mischance. So, I mean, yeah, you might score
less,
in
no,
that
no,
one
no.
hit, but
I'd have to look at my spells, but I'm pretty sure one of the enhancements that I can add to mine makes it hit.
is effect incorporeal? Mm,
I'd have to look because there's a list of ones that my paladin ability allows me to stack on it, and I would just trade
yeah.
wholly for something else. But the bottom line though is if you could find, but see, then what you're doing is also you're giving me the ability to use my channel smite and all that crap. That's what you want to deny.
Yeah.
What you really want to focus on is finding an incorporeal, a mid-level difficulty that has relatively high magic resistance and can do some nasty not necessarily direct damage attacks, but like lower attribute attacks, or something that screws with us on different levels, and send us up against a number of them, so that all of a sudden, Matt's at 50% chance to even do damage. I can't trigger my abilities, and as long as I have some sort of magic resistance, and if they're incorporeal of that thing, maybe the bard's abilities may not be able to be so effective against it. So, you see what I mean?
Actually, her bardic abilities, they for most, well, no, actually, most undead are immune to mind affecting. Yeah. So, most, it would depend on the type of. I'll have to do some research.
And all it has to be is neutral, because remember, my abilities only work
Yeah.
on evil,
Evil.
and there's got to be some sort of, maybe it's not undead or some neutral spirit of some kind. That would be the thing to come at us with.
Yeah.
Because
The trick though is the justification as to why it would be coming after you. Then.
let me see. The demon dragon pretty much extorted them to do so.
Yeah, that's possible.
Why? I mean, you have the biggest baddie who's going to destroy the world. What if he makes a deal with these beings? It's like, listen, I'm going to destroy the world.
Okay. Stop. You don't need to be giving me ideas like that.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, dude,
It does.
half the time I'm trying to help you make this game, more. Yeah.
No, and I
My
appreciate that.
My interest in this is less as a player character, more as for the GM perspective, is I really want to help give the player characters a challenge, and doing something like this, especially if you threw this in with other things. So, for example, let's say you sent more mundane assassins or whatever against us, and then these things were brought in. So we geared up to fighting one thing, and all of a sudden these things are hitting us from the side, and Othello's like, I will smite I'll smash everything, slashy, and then 50% or fewer of his attacks do any damage, and all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, and of course I'm like, I detect evil, and you're like, nope, no evil here, and it's like, well, crap. So then all of a sudden, then they're throwing fireballs and stuff, and they're if not immune to fire since they're incorporeal, Ella's fire damage is doing next to nothing, and then all of a sudden we then have to actually work as a unit and fight, an intelligent battle.
Yeah. I'll see what I can come up with.
So what else are you doing in gaming, or is that it?
Uh, no, not quite. As I say, I've been doing a lot of, like I had mentioned last time, I've been doing a lot of prep. Um, I will actually be starting one of the Karma games Thursday. So hopefully by the time this posts, that will have gone well. And actually, Salo has invited me to his Saga game that he's doing like every other Wednesday. So hopefully that'll go well tomorrow.
Salo.
Darcy is actually getting her game started up. Now, Darcy is part of my Lucky 13 group. Well, the group I actually RP in person with up here. This is her first time GMing ever. And the story the world she's come up with has been very intriguing. Um, and she's letting me play a character that's definitely to my strengths, but is the mentality is different than usual. My guy is not a nice guy. Um,
Nice.
like, well, because like, okay, actually, the history of her world and the history of my world, Draco Toronto, is actually very similar. Just she's if like you put the timelines together, she's doing it earlier than what I usually put, in the timeline of my world. Um, the world is recovering from the like each of there's four major races: humans, dwarves, elves, and halflings, and each of them have a primary god, and then each of those gods have like demigod servants. And the four primary gods were like going to war with each other on the prime material. So they're breaking the world apart. It was a god's war. Um, but they were doing so much destruction, killing so many people. They were getting weak to the point to where these deific like figures, they're not full deities, but they were, there was enough belief and faith in them that they were gaining power of the orcs and the gnomes, that they were starting to threaten the four gods. And then the four gods were like, okay, look, we need to stop, otherwise they're gonna fucking kill us. And we're all equally powerful, so we can't really, defeat each other. So they kind of withdrew. Well, their races did as well. So like the humans are in the northern part of the world, like the elves are in the eastern part. I think the halflings are in the southern part, and the dwarves are in the western part. And the races hate each other because the gods were pretty much like, stop, rebuild civilization, keep to your own. And the followers took that very literally. So they like shunned out the other races, and there's a lot of racial there's like a lot of racial bigotry in this world. Um, and basically our characters being a mix of the various races, um, are there was like this one priestess that was trying to, because like in the center of the world a group of almost death worshipping cannibals has started up, and they're growing in power. So this one priestess tried to go around to the four major races, the four major kingdoms, to try to help, to get help to deal with these cannibals, and she was shunned by pretty much all of them, including her own race. Um, and so she's now been like reaching out to us magically to try to pull people together to help her, bring a force to bear that can actually deal with the cannibals. And my character is this. The way I wrote his backstory, he's a mystic thurge, so he's a multi-class wizard cleric, that with the mystic thurge prestige class, which basically the mystic thurge means that I can raise up in my spellcasting capabilities in both the arcane and divine spellcasting class that I have each level. So I'm like 15th level. That's another thing. She started us off for like really high. I'm like 15th level, but I'm casting as like a 10th level wizard and a 10th level cleric, um, which is kind of nice. But because of that, like my wizardry side, I'm focusing on necromancy. But my clerical side, I kind of focus on life. My character has kind of got this very skewed sense of balance between life and death, and that he feels he's kind of the judge of that balance. And I'm sitting here like looking at Darcy as she's describing how this priestess is trying to get my attention to get me to help her, and I'm just like, she might be opening up a can of worms that she might regret later. Because I'm like, I was like, okay, I see the world is out of balance. Yeah, I'll help. I'll help bring the world back into balance. That is not a problem. Anyone that doesn't like my balance, I'm gonna kill.
Well, there
you
you
know,
go.
and then if I have to rule the freaking world to do it, hey, it'll be in balance.
A very, very draconic balance, but a balance nonetheless.
Yep. And he's now even the kind of the thing of like, okay, the gods are out of balance too. I may have to put them in their place as well. So and I'm hearing, because like I have no, I mean, I have a little information of the other players because she was doing just one-on-one stuff right now because the player characters aren't supposed to know each other, but until we get pulled together. Um, I know a little bit about some of them because she's using my GMing knowledge to help. She's asking me for advice on some things, and I'm more than happy to help. And of course, I'm good enough that I'm not going to metagame or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing what some of the other people are trying to do, and I'm just like, I'm not entirely sure how long my character's going to last with the rest of them. Either like I see three possibilities. Either we will actually get along rather well eventually, because that was another thing she was pushing. She's like, you all are not supposed to meet each other and immediately become friends. You all hate each other. I mean, this is kind of like what you've been born and raised into. Is you all hate any other race but your own, and sometimes even then. Um, so I'm seeing that either we'll eventually actually put our differences aside and work together, which is what she's kind of hoping for. Either they're all going to kill my ass, which is going to be kind of hard to do because I play a very cautious wizard, um, or I'm going to kill all their asses and then raise them up as my undead servants. So it's actually going to be interesting. And of course, she's doing such a drastic story and something so drastic from the standard, the almost status quo of a fantasy, epic, of a fantasy story that usually an RP is usually kind of based on. Um, that she's like, this game could go on. This game could be over in 10 minutes. I don't know. It depends on how well the players seem to like it. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the other players in the group react to something so different than what they're used to playing. Because I mean, this is reminiscent of your stuff, dude. And even then, she's going like a few degrees. In some areas, she's going a few degrees worse than what you usually do. So I think you'd like it. I think you'd get a kick out of this game.
I might indeed.
So,
I said I might indeed.
mm. So that is starting up. She did my one-on-one on this last Sunday. Although I need to do a little research because she wasn't able to quite finish because she unfortunately put a magical puzzle in front of me and didn't realize that I was going to be very thorough with it. So I have to plan out a bit of a strategy to what I'm going to do to be able to continue on to finish my one-on-one. Um, but so there's that. But yeah, actually, aside from the Epic game, I haven't actually really been doing much of any gaming since since the last podcast. Like I said, I've been prepping for a lot of it. I've been doing a lot of work in the in my project and whatnot. Which, by the way, baby step one is done. Um, the deadlines that Liz set down for me. The first one was yesterday actually, and I met it. I'm almost close to meeting the next one too, which is at the end of the month.
Very
Um,
cool.
and actually, and you helped me with that on Saturday. So
You're welcome.
there is that. So, but yeah, so I'm hoping by next podcast I'll have quite a bit to tell. But at this time, yeah, it's like I'm getting ready to do some other stuff. I've got another Karma game, but I'm probably gonna wait another couple of weeks before starting that one, just because next week they'll be unavailable. Um, so I was like, well, I don't know if I want to start this week and then have a week off, so I might just wait until after that. So that's gonna give me a little more time to get that one ready. Um, and then yeah, so lots of prep, lots of pre-production. I haven't done much of the way of actual production work yet.
Ah, well.
So, although I do agree, I think it was you that was telling me, I do agree that I need to start really kind of laying out the final fight for
Yeah,
the
you do.
Epic game.
It,
I mean, 'cause
yeah,
I've got an idea in my head, but I might run it by you. Obviously, not on the podcast because there are a lot of the player characters listen to this. But I might run it by you to check on things and whatnot. So, and I still would actually like to try to do us getting together in person for the finale. I think that'd be really cool.
That
I
would
don't
be
know.
cool.
I don't know
In-
when.
Incidentally, what I was talking about, I was looking while you were talking. I was doing some research real quick. Incorporeal, I'm looking at Pathfinder. Even when hit by spells and magic weapons, it only takes half damage from corporeal assist, except for channel energy. So yeah,
Oh,
I would
it's
still
not a 50%. It just only takes half damage.
correct.
Oh, they changed it a little, but
They
still,
did,
that'll bring you guys down a peg.
and if it's evil or necromantic, my channel energy is full damage.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that it does not trigger my abilities. Do that, and we're good. We're golden.
Hmm. Of course, that's another thing too. Is it could be evil, but if you don't know that it's evil, you wouldn't necessarily. You may not necessarily know to kick in your ability, although you might do it.
Dude,
You might do it initially just out of
I will if I'm facing any ghost like or incorporeal creature, I'm going to try to smite it. I'm
Okay.
going to try to use my channel abilities just
Okay.
by default because the number of spirit-like creatures that aren't either undead or evil is so small
Yeah.
that it
Well,
it
actually, that's
pays.
another thing. And that's another thing too. Is the trick is to use this because I mean I realize that you're invested more in this than the standard player, and again I'm completely thankful and grateful for it, but I still do see you primarily as a player. So in which case I want to make sure things are fun and challenging for you as well. So the trick is going to be to be able
Ooh, an
to
incorporeal creature's attacks pass through ignore natural armor and shields, which
yep.
that would be perfect for me. That's what you need to do.
Yep. Well, that demon you fought in the last game was actually supposed to be incorporeal. I was actually supposed to make him incorporeal, but I forgot about it until you
Wouldn't
already
matter.
hit him.
Wouldn't matter because it was evil with my channel.
Well, it would have mattered because he attacked first
Yeah, but again,
because it would have gone right through your armor.
so yeah.
So, but
All right,
eh,
so
all right. So enough of that. So we didn't really have a topic per se to talk about, um, except something that at least ties in to what I was kind of hoping you would be willing to do, which
yeah,
was take this opportunity to catch my character up in your Shaintar game because it's
be
been a
happy to.
while and I will admit I've been lackadaisical. God, I can't believe I used that word now. I'd never heard of the word until my boss said it. I've been lackadaisical on some of my report stuff. Um,
Lackadaisical.
lackadaisical. I had never heard that word until my current boss said it, and she uses it all the time. I'm like, what? She's like, lackadaisical. Haven't you heard? I was like, no. She's like, huh. I'm like, okay. So, had you ever heard it?
Lackadaisical, yes.
The lackadaisical, no.
No,
Huh. Well,
that's
there you go. I just dropped some knowledge on you. There you go.
you're gonna have to give me a spelling.
I, you were asking the wrong GM. Spelling
All
is
right,
my kryptonite.
so let's talk about Shaintar then.
All right. Well, actually, what I was going to say was something that I actually had meant to kind of encourage in the Epic game, but I think it got lost in the overall prep work to actually get it going. Was keeping character journals,
Yes.
just in general. I always think is actually a good idea. Actually, like Puff has been telling me like all the stuff that she's been doing for her character in the Epic game, and it almost brought a tear to my eye that someone actually is so excited and cares so much about the game that I'm running, that I created, that they're going to these lengths, to almost memorialize it, to make it immortal to them. Um, that it actually almost boggles my mind. I'm just like, you know, I mean, I'm happy about it, but it's just my brain is having a little issue wrapping around that concept. But um, I always think character journals are good to have. It um, helps you remember what all has been going on in case there's been a a hiatus in a game. If you ever happen to be searching through stuff and find it, you read it, makes you think of the game again. Um, the next game I run, the next big game I run, I'm gonna try to remember to make it a requirement to do character journals.
And
Um,
requirements get nasty, dude.
huh?
And if you don't offer them something in return, requirements get nasty.
Well,
My player characters for Shaintar do write their adventure journals, but it hasn't always been us. And pretty much the payoff for them was when they realized they got an extra experience. And as Ricky said many months ago, and as Kelly just said to another player character who's now recently started writing his own, is that once you realize the benefit of just taking a few moments and writing a quick journal entry or whatever, and you get an in-game benefit, i.e., like an experience or whatever
mhm,
it is, that's great because then it's not mandatory. But once you get
yeah.
the buy-in, and not everyone's going to buy it. If you tell them it's mandatory, then it
Well,
becomes
I
like,
was not mandatory. Probably wasn't the best word to use. I was thinking I was going to highly encourage, and I might do like what you've done in the terms of rewarding extra experience or something to do it. Um, my problem is though is actually and again let's discuss this a little before we actually get into Shaintar some. My problem is that I seem to want to try to put too much information into them.
have you
Um,
read my reports, dude? Probably not because there's way too much information.
actually, I have read some of them, and some of them glazed over some stuff that I would have done out in detail. So
Yeah,
my question to you is, considering you deal with this a lot more, especially with the Shaintar stuff.
yeah.
Um, is it better to just give an overview? Is it better to be very detailed, or is it better to find a healthy mix? And how do you know
Okay,
when to breeze over something and when to go into more detail?
I have the answer for you. It's
Okay,
very
I'd
simple.
be more than happy to hear that.
It is very simple. It depends entirely upon what you're writing that particular piece for, that particular journal for. Let me explain. Wolfhaven. I as Wolfhaven am writing those journals so that I'm very conscious of dates, like locations, dates, and times. I want to make sure that major events are recorded, but I do not go into exacting detail, for example, in exactly what happens in combat, generally speaking. The reason is because ultimately, when I'm reading back over these things, what I'm using them for is a reference for future games. So let's say 6 months from now, all of a sudden there's a question about, like, holy crap, we met with somebody. When was that, and what was discussed? I go back to the journal of that day, and I'm like, okay, we met them on, let's say, Red Wolf 17th. Year 3123. This was the guy we met. He was an alchemist, and we were discussing a cure for this rare poison. That's all I need to know. Wolfhaven writes his reports in such a way that they can go back and be a reference guide.
Mm,
And he writes in his own voice. He writes his as a catalog of events, but the dates, times, locations, and people involved are extremely important
mm,
because this is the chronology of the events. Okay. That information is not necessarily important to, let's say, a player character. The player character is less concerned about exactly when things occurred, for the simple reason is that for them, just knowing that it happened during this time is important. The exact dates are not. But for the player character's development, what comes from their perspective is exceedingly important. Um, Hawksclaw's character might be more interested in the natural order of things. He might be interested in what actual magic occurs. Also, as he's moving up through the ranks, he's very concerned about the condition of the people under his command and about the success or failure of the mission. So his are going to be skewed toward that. Longtails are going to be skewed toward a completely different thing, and in her voice, they're going to be detailing other issues that are relevant specifically to her. Wolfhaven doesn't write a lot about personal details of the people under him in his reports. He'll reference them, and when he adds the player character reports to his report, you can go through and see the reference, and then you can go and read Hawk's Claws or Longtails or Rildereers or formerly Snow or High Walls to see what the details about said event are. But the answer to the question is, what information does that individual or does that journal to need to record? For Corpsman, it would be something totally different. Corpsman would be less concerned about the day of the week. As a matter of fact, Corpsman probably doesn't know what day of the week it is half the time, since it's
Actually,
immaterial to me.
actually, I have been having it that he does, in the sense of he's keeping track of how many days since the storm,
And that's
because that obviously was a big, not only event to the world but also big magically.
well, yeah, but I mean, but again, it's like it's 17 days since the storm. Does it really matter that it's Wednesday? It's important. The clock is important, but what date isn't. It doesn't matter if it's Wednesday or Friday. It's important that it's 21 days after the storm. Okay. For Corpsman, the magical events that are occurring, he is going to write in exacting detail. He's going to write his observations, his research, who he talks to, the plans he has. If he gets into combat, if he sees any unique magic, he's probably going to more focus on that, but he would be less concerned with what combat style the opponent is using or what mundane weapon that guy is using. It's immaterial to the character. I mean, so that he dodged a club or so he dodged, a Nazateran, spiked club or something like that. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The fact is, he dodged the attack and he moved on with his life. But if, for example, whatever the guy was wielding was a unique magical artifact, all of a sudden that becomes incredibly important to him. Versus Rildereer. Rildereer is like, guy hit me with a magic sword. What kind of magic was it? Who cares? It didn't do any damage. See? So just push start. So the bottom line is you, when you're writing these things, think about what information you're trying to record and include that information in the report or in the journal or in whatever.
Okay.
And you put in as little or as much information as is absolutely necessary, and that's the key.
Okay. All right. I will take that under advisement. Hopefully that'll help.
Well, it should, and if you read over the reports, I'm actually very lenient as far as, and that's another key. Be lenient. And I'm lenient as far as, because right now, Rildereer, my players who plays Rildereer is beginning to send me reports about the convention games. They're like a paragraph long. They're very low on detail. They're not the most easy to understand. There's no chronology to them. They're kind of stream of consciousness. But he's playing a barbarian. It's perfectly a character.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect any sort of exposition from him. So it's perfect. But the thing is he's recording it. He's investing the time in his character, and he's growing as a player and as a character. Hawk's Claw and Longtail. Longtail didn't write mana reports to begin with. She wrote a smattering hither and yon until she got it that, hey, if I just write reports, that extra experience, I'm gonna level so much faster. When Ricky figured that out and he started writing his reports and religiously, all of a sudden his character he jumped like 3 advancements in one night. Literally, he jumped 3 advancements in a single night. Why? He wrote the reports.
A lot of freaking reports.
Turned a lot of reports, and all of a sudden, and when he realized that, it was this aha moment. It was like, huh. And so that's why I suggest, rather than say you guys have to write reports, be like, here you go. I encourage you to write reports. Those who write reports, when you turn them in, when I see them, I'm going to give you X amount of experience. And then all of a sudden, the other player characters. Now there is one downside to it. I did lose a player. I've lost some other people that because they're like, well, if I can't write reports and I can't keep up with the Joneses, I don't want to play. If I can't get the experience without putting in the work, I don't want to be a part of it. It's like, well, I mean, it's not fair to the people who are doing the work to just give someone else something for free, and they're like, well, then that's it. If I can't keep up with them, but I don't with you know I don't have time to do these things, and if I can't keep up with them, then I'm out. So there you go. So
Mm,
be warned about that.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, what do you want to do with Corman?
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Where in your mind, where did we last leave off?
We last left off, as I'm actually taking a look at the notes I took.
Ooh.
We last left off after my encounter with the tree with Tree Singer in Estronaut's Sacred Grove, and how she kind of pretty much confirmed both of my theories on what was going on with the storm magic.
Okay.
So, and I figured he would probably take a day or two to kind of compile that. But I remember I was also supposed to have a time to interview the quote unquote guest um, that Wolfhaven had, and then depending on what I learned from that, I kind of knew where I wanted him to go next.
Well, as
But
far
that was the next big thing. He's not going to leave until he gets a chance to talk to that woman.
okay. Here's what I want you to do. I'm assuming you being a gamer, you have dice lying around, don't you?
I have my 2014 special edition Gen Con 10 right in front of me.
Let's see how successful those are. Let's christen these bad boys.
Actually, I've already been using them some, and they have been pretty good.
Okay. So, I'm going to say
Probably would
this.
also help if I pull up my character. One moment.
Let's do this. Let's just do some little like out of game sort of. Let's do some tests here. We'll do some rolls.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Where is? Okay. All right. So you're going to need to roll two things. This is going to be. It's going to be a persuasion and a streetwise. But before you roll, what are you asking? What information do you want to know? First, tell me what information you're going for.
Well,
Like,
obviously, I want to try to get an understanding of the magic she uses.
what
Um,
specific information are you looking for? An understanding of magic is not a specific question.
well, an understanding of her magic because her magic is so different.
Okay.
Um, where it comes from, how she uses it, the effects it has, what it can do.
Okay.
Those kinds of things.
All right. Give me a
Obviously, I'm going to want to try to be very, analytical and academic with it.
persuasion
So,
test at a -4,
persuasion. I don't have persuasion.
which is a D4 -2, so your D4 -6 and a D6 -6.
A D4 and a D6 -6.
Well, yes. Well, keeping in mind, she is insane, and you are working through an interpreter.
Oh, I am? See, I didn't even know that part. Okay.
Well, do you speak Goblinish?
Where are my languages?
Unless you spent stuff specifically on them, you speak your native tongue.
Okay, then no. I speak my.
I would allow that you speak Fey at this point.
Okay, but yeah, obviously no. So yeah, all right, interpreter.
I was more than happy to help you, but again, you're speaking through an interpreter, so
Yeah, not a problem. No, I mean I understand. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the. Oh Lord. Well, my highest was a 2.
all right. She is unimpressed.
Okay.
So then now roll me
I was saying
a.
unimpressed in the terms of just going to blabber at me or not say anything. Because I'll copy down the blabber.
Oh, no. Now, no, it's just when you're dealing with someone like, well, you may not know, but you're dealing with someone on a psych ward, someone with mental issues, or an autistic individual, it's better to form rapport to start off with, because they're more
Yeah,
responsive to people that they have a connection with. You are
yeah.
unable to form a connection, which is
Okay.
going to make your investigation again at a -4, because you are unable
To set the
to get her
groundwork.
to warm up. Yeah, to warm up,
Okay.
get her to warm up to you.
Well, investigation I do have though. So now
Sorry,
if
it's
I'm
a
remember
streetwise. It's a streetwise.
streetwise. Oh well, shoot.
Investigation is books. Streetwise is conversation.
Okay. Well, streetwise. I don't. I'm actually trying. Hang on a quick second, because I know we actually did do a little advancement for my character, and I don't think this character sheet is actually showing that.
Well, then probably need to pull up one of your.
Um. Oh yeah, that's right. We raised my spirit to a D8. And I got that staff, but I think that was no. I raised up one of my knowledges.
Knowledge. Yeah,
Yeah.
Spirit
Okay.
Date, Knowledge, Cosmology D6, and Knowledge Legend Lore D6. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously not dealing with this, right? So D4 and a D6, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that would be a 3.
You get a lot of mad ramblings, about the Tempest God. You get mad ramblings about storms, ravings about lightning. Um, it's nigh unintelligible gibberish,
It's something.
but it is something.
Yep.
However, give me a spirit test and then follow it up with a knowledge magic.
Okay.
And
Now
I
my
check.
spirit, my spirit's a D8, so it's a D8 and a D6.
Yeah, and I need to check real quick, because there's a rule where, as a sorcerer, when you're analyzing, when you're sensing magic from another source, there's usually a penalty, so there might be a -2. So roll it, and then I'll tell you if there's a -2.
Okay.
-6. Here we go. Sorcery. Elements. No, so it's over in the feet section, or the edges section. It's one of the navigation things in this book that I always have trouble with trying to remember which one is where. So these are professionals. So let's go to professional sorcerer. Okay. +2 to identify. Okay. Sorcerer begin with 3 power. Blah, blah. Any sorcerer with smarts D10 or greater gains the cantrip's power for free. Sorcerer also have R since they're able to arcane at will using spirit. A knowledge magic text required to identify what type of magic, and a raise will tell you what powers are effective. Any sorcerer gain +2 to identify powers of sorcery. So you don't actually have any penalties. So what
Okay.
was your spirit?
My highest was a 5.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
So you detect the strange magic. Give me a knowledge magic test.
Okay, that's actually a similar roll. Ooh, 7.
Oh, nice. Um,
Woohoo.
you're beginning to understand, begin to identify the concept of what it means for the storm. She's a druid. You can tell that, but instead of being the green that you're used to druids, there's gray, and there is red, like striations through her aura, basically. That you're beginning to get the understanding of, instead of being tied to life, it's tied specific to the violence of a storm.
Hmm. Interesting. All right.
If you spend a Benny, which if you have 3, you'll find one extra interesting thing.
Sure.
This individual, apparently, you know the druids have paths. You've been working with the druids for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and you know that her path is the path of wind. She is a follower of Zavonis.
What?
Zavonis is one of the ascended. It's the ascendant of
Okay.
sky and wind, which is interesting because there are four paths: nature, earth, sky, and sea. And most druids, focus. Most druids sort of are generic, but some are what you would call like path walkers, and they
Right.
tend to focus on a specific path. And she seems, you recognize from her, from talking with her and from studying her aura and from sort of researching her, that she appears to be pretty much walking the path of air, which you can't tell exactly, but it's possible that she walked the path of air prior to becoming a storm druid.
Hmm.
But here's the most interesting thing: she is no longer corrupted. Her power is not corrupted.
Huh.
That that is unique because prior to this, all of the storm druids were corrupted. All the storm mage storm druids are corrupted. But as you've discovered, there are no storm mages left, only storm druids. This being one of them, and she does not appear to be corrupted.
Hmm.
She also seems to be far weaker than your experience. From the research you've done, her power is much less than you would have expected. From the stories you've heard, from the tales you received from the player
Well, that
characters,
that may have something to do with the fact of the initial source of the magics has now been cut off.
that is a fair assumption. But that is what the research you've discovered.
Hmm. That is very interesting. And
Unfortunately, you
actually
haven't been.
leads me a little different than where I was originally thinking I was going to be going, I think.
And the other thing is that because she's not actively casting spells, you can't necessarily see. Because she's not. Let's just say that she's not being encouraged to just sling spells within the
Oh,
HQ.
I
That
would.
could be dangerous. Storm spells in enclosed spaces, bad idea.
Yeah, yeah, no. I was to say that. I can understand that. So, interesting. Interesting indeed. Hmm. All right. Um, if I'm permitted, I would actually like to try to spend a couple of days,
Oh, you're more. Yeah, you're fine.
you know,
The Rangers are off doing all.
interviewing her, huh?
Yeah, you can come every day and interview her. The outpost is just agog. I mean, half the time no one's there. Typically in the ranger outpost, the only people that remain are of course Sarah, who runs and does the errands, Olgor and Stormhammer. And Olgor spends all of his time writing stuff down, so he's more than willing to be your overseer.
Okay.
She's being I mean, she's not necessarily being confined. If she starts straying, if she tries to walk out a door out into the street, Stormhammer Olgar will gently call her back. Um, she she's becoming less. The longer she remains there, and the more people just talk to her and or just interact with her like you are, the calmer she becomes. In a sense, she's less erratic.
Okay.
But so she appears to be healing from whatever it is, but like any mental trauma or emotional trauma, it may take weeks, months, possibly years before she ever has a semblance of normality. And even after that, it's possible that she may never recover fully. It's one of those things. I mean, mental illness is so
Right.
ill
Right.
and
Yeah.
understood.
Okay. Now, what what are their plans for her? Does Wolfhaven know, or does he have
Yes,
any plans for her?
yes.
Okay.
Just
After a few days, I'm gonna actually um, see if I can speak to him and inquire.
Wolfhaven has been out. He's out on but Olga will the plans for her are she's going to remain at the headquarters until such time as I mean between the headquarters and the Chapel of Light, which is very close by, she's going to remain until such time as either that they can get her back to the point where she can take care of herself, um, if they can to that point, and they have adepts that they're going to bring in adepts and things like that to help, because adepts are the scientists who are the masters of the mind, and they're going to see what
Yeah.
they can do, gently coaxing her out of whatever it is, and return her to a state of normalcy in that sense. Um, if they can do that, then they are going to, once they are certain that she is no longer a threat, then they are going to do their best to find her an establishment. Because being a druid, they might send her to the Sacred Grove,
Mm.
or to the Elven lands if the elves wish to take her in. The main thing is that she's becoming less of a villain in their minds and more of a victim. It
Hmm.
seems almost as if maybe whatever happened to her wasn't necessarily her fault. And there's really no way to tell at this point. But the bottom line is their goal for her is to bring her back to a state in which she can maintain herself. Barring that, they're planning to keep her on to find some place for her, like the Chapel of Light or the Sacred Grove, and sort of almost as like an asylum, to give her a place where she can live out the rest of her days without being tormented.
Mm.
The goal is to either help her or find a place for her to live in peace.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Hmm.
But since storm power is so little understood, everyone's a little anxious about just letting her go.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee
Well,
that she
I
have a psychotic break.
yeah. Well, obviously, hopefully they'll help her as much as they can. But I've got an idea on that. Um, the next update I send to my patron, I might say something about that to him.
Yeah, the Rangers aren't going to let her go to someone that they aren't keeping an eye on her. That's
Yeah.
flat out. They're not going to, because the Rangers are in a sense a federal organization, and the federal government, once it gets something, doesn't let it go.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Once if she gets to the point to where she can be released, or even sent, like you said, maybe to the elves. I'm thinking I might send word to my patron. I was like, hey, you know, if they need someplace to send her, you might want to, volunteer something.
Yeah,
So because you know that hey, he might be able to figure something out that they can't. I don't
that
know.
is true.
I don't know the full capabilities that this guy has.
Oh yeah, he definitely could. The elves are inscrutable.
Yeah. So all right. So we've got ties to the druids, and we've got similarities of the shadows and how the shadows work. I'm not entirely well, aside from what, even when I initially thought of the idea as being foolhardy, aside from actually going out and trying to study the shadows stuff, I'm not
Darkness.
entirely sure where. Yeah, the darkness. I'm not entirely sure where to go from here. Hmm.
Well, there is one option.
What's that?
There are still storm druids in operation. Those that are actually out there doing bad things. I mean, there are always whispers or reports on the fringes that there are storm druids still out there causing problems.
Yeah, there is that.
You could go hunt down a storm druid.
Oh, wonderful. Uh, yeah, that's probably a little bit better than hunting down, a practitioner of the darkness.
Although I told you, you could, rather than hunt down a practitioner, you could try to find a tome, like an academic tome. It'd probably be.
For the darkness. Oh, that is true.
Of course, every time you read it, you have to roll a spirit, but that's the thing there. It's like it would be like the what is the from Evil Dead? No, Evil Dead.
Oh, the
The
Necronomicon.
yeah, kind of like an economic. Every time you read it, you'd have to roll a spirit, but yeah, you could probably find one. You can try. Of
Sure.
course, just having it would I mean, it's one of those things that if you got caught with it, it would be you would suddenly become highly suspect. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's all right. Well, in that case, you have a resource dive. Well, actually, are you using your patron's resources or are you using your own resources?
I will use my own resources to start with.
Okay, then.
The more plausible deniability he has, the better.
All right. Well, let's. The first thing is actually to find it. Since this is rare, you're gonna roll your resource die, which is a d6, and it being a trait test, it's so you roll a wild die, also a d6. So
Okay.
you're rolling two
Two d
d6,
six.
getting the higher of the two. But the problem is this is a rare. This would be a rare tome, so you're at a -6 modifier to start off with.
Oh, fun. So pretty much, I need to roll a 6 on the wild to be able to. I need to get a raise.
Or, yeah, or that, or use one of your bennies to extra effort.
Can I choose to do that afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay. Wild die. Well, what do you know? 6 on the wild.
Roll it again.
Okay. So, and the other roll was a 4. I don't think that matters, though. And another 6.
Roll it again.
I apparently got lucky. Ah! No, don't fall off. And another 6.
Keep rolling, dude.
A 1. There.
Um, okay. In Lowtown, anything can be purchased in Lowtown, or so they say.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually true since you're still a town, but that's their claim to fame. You ask around quite a bit, and you eventually locate an individual who sells things of, let's say, a suspicious nature. Think of a curio shop. It's not
Yeah.
even a shop. I mean, this is it's not even a retail store. It's a guy who he's kind of a hoarder. You're buying from a hoarder, a medieval hoarder. And you go through his tomes, and of course he's got dead cats hanging from various things, and like chicken entrails, dried chicken entrails, and some fresh chicken entrails. And he's got tobacco pipes or tobacco or smoking pipes. He's got some rare artifacts that come out of like the sort of like the Desert Princes area. He's got some blood black what is it, blood iron and black steel like weapons like older obviously poorly maintained. He's got part of a knight chain like armor, which is like the Shaikar armor. It's not a complete piece of armor. It's like pieces like it's like rings are missing, so there's like sections of it missing, but it's actually like Shaikar knight chain.
Mm-hmm.
And in there you find a book which roll a spirit test.
Oh, of course. That was a D8 now, right?
Yep.
Uh, 6 on the wild.
Roll again.
6. I like these
Roll
dice.
again.
1.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, you just being near it makes you want to throw up. So yes, you found what you wanted. We're looking.
Yeah, wonderful.
Now you need to roll another trait test. This one is at a -6 because of the first roll, and at a -4 because of the price. So you're at a cumulative -10. You roll your 2d6 again, and you're trying to get basically roll your die and tell me what you get.
All right. My regular was a 6, and the wild die was a 5.
All right, reroll the 6.
Okay. I didn't know if that was just for the wild die or for any 6.
Goes.
Oh, cool. And another 6.
Jeez, roll again.
And a 5.
So add it up and subtract 10.
Be 7.
All right. You're Wow, you managed to have enough pocket change. Your resource die for the foreseeable future, personal resource die goes down to a D4.
Not a problem.
But you in fact have a tome.
All
It's
right.
a necromantic tome.
All right. I will wrap that puppy up. Um,
I wouldn't touch it with your hands.
huh?
I wouldn't touch it with your flesh.
No, I did no. No. I'm going to wrap that up, and when I get back to my wagon, I'm going to secure the shit out of that thing
Okay.
until such time as I can properly prepare to research it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that anywhere around here. There are a
No.
lot of paladins, and there's a lot of priests of the Church of Light wandering
No.
around. Any one of them could sense it.
In fact, if I thought a lead chest would help, I'd get one.
No. Now you can go. One of the things you could do is you could go to the local alchemist in town and get a potion of conceal arcana.
Okay.
If you douse the thing, if you basically rub the ointment of conceal arcana, it'll shield it basically makes it invisible to magic. It's to magic sense.
I will do that, and I'll use the patron's resource die to help with that, considering.
All right, roll. Well, first of all, roll your d8 and a d6. And you're trying, and this is it's a -2, but all you're looking for is a 4.
Yeah. I got an 8 on the D8.
You're fine.
Okay.
You find it without any issues, and roll it again.
And an 8 on the D8 again. Good grief.
Roll it again.
Another 8. And a 6.
There you go. Um, yep. You get a potion of conceal arcana.
Okay.
And incidentally, when you magically detecting, even though you know it's an alchemy potion, when you sense it, you sense nothing.
One would hope. All right. Well,
All you need to do is take that and brush it onto. It's like an oil. You brush it
okay.
onto the tome,
And I will literally, with gloved hands, I will brush it on.
Okay.
Then I will wrap it up again and secure it in the wagon.
Roll spirit.
Okay. Seven.
Nothing.
Which is a good thing in this case.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Then, in which case, the next day, I will start seeing what I can learn about what whispers, what rumors of possible storm mages or storm druids.
Streetwise test.
Which is going to be a D4 and a D6 if I remember correctly.
And you train, it's a -2 to both.
To both?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a -2.
Well, I got a 6 on the 6.
Reroll.
3.
What's your charisma modifier?
Dash.
So there's no
Yeah, I'm guessing 0.
it's a ±0. Oh, that's good. This is not a met penalty.
Yeah.
Okay then. So what was your total number?
Was taking in the -2 was a 7 total.
Right now, most of the rumors are dealing with the prelacy of Kaman, who is currently on the march. They're rumors that they're because after the storm, there are rumors that they're sort of branching off and moving in 3 directions, east west. Well, holding the center but moving east and west, and sort of trying to sort of like pincer movement down through the mountains. So there's a lot of that rumor. Of course, everyone's just happy the storm is over. There's still in the timeline you're in. There's still jubilation about that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot there's not a lot about the storms, but what you do hear are rumors and rumblings that there are some people who believe that the druid or that the elves in the Elven Nation might have actually been involved with the storm somehow, because the Elven Nation, remember how to explain the elves didn't actually get as affected by the storm as everyone else did. Remember, I
Yeah,
was saying that you were there, and during that time, like everyone else was being obliterated, but the Elven nation was
yeah.
not
Which of course
untouched.
I'm finding kind of interesting to hearing those rumors, considering I was there. But
Well,
it's also they could have been hiding shit from me too. So
well, or it could just be that other nations that were surrounding him are jealous that the elves survive so much better and want somebody to blame. Because you remember, every time something
yeah.
bad happens, wants to point a finger at somebody. And since the elves are the only people in the area who didn't seem to be badly affected, obviously they had to be either behind it or knew about it ahead of time, and they just
So they could
neglect
prepare.
they can prepare. The
Yeah.
fact that they're in a giant freaking forest and they're all freaking druids has nothing to do with it. It's the fact is that obviously elves are behind it. However, however, in all of the other areas, storm druids and mages were hunted more or less to extinction. But since in the Elven Woods, and if you recall from Wolfhaven's report, a number of the actual storm mages and storm druids were found in and around, especially in the wildland area bordering the Elven lands. That seems to be an area where a lot of them were in operation.
Hmm. Well, maybe instead of a letter, I'll go back and talk to my patron in person. Considering it's looking like I'm going to have to head back to the Elvish lands anyway.
There you go.
All right. All right. Yeah. So, give me a second here.
So I think right here we should break up because the podcast is already, I think it's going on, well, about an hour and 45 minutes, and
Yeah,
this
give
is
or
a little
take.
do a little wrap up, and then
Yep. So,
write up some
well,
reports to me.
yep. As I say, I'm actually going to try to wrap up quite a few reports and get them to you, as well as your the audio editing you requested. I'm also going to try to have in time for when this posts.
Awesome.
So I will even try to have a link to it in the post in the blog, and obviously the two things will be up on the channel. Um, I realize this was a bit different of an episode than usual, but I mean, unfortunately, your schedule's very busy. My schedule's very busy. This night that we usually record is about the only night that we really have together outside of Epic Gang.
Yep.
So I think we might be doing this a little bit more often, just so you and I can get in
Dude,
some
really think we
gaming
should.
while we're.
No, I think we should actually take a podcast maybe next time and actually game.
Okay.
Like,
Well,
I really think.
unfortunately, I've been so busy because I know I said I was going to actually read the fifth edition rules for D&D, so we could actually like play test it out and review it. But unfortunately, I've been so busy with everything else, I haven't really been able to. Um, and I just realized something.
What?
We never got a chance to actually for you to run me in the new Star Wars rules when I went down to visit you.
Correct. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll
So
plan out for next time.
we'll create a character, and you'll take a session or two, create a character, run me through an adventure, and we'll review it. Are you going to want? Do you think it'll be good with a one-on-one, or should we try to bring in someone else?
No, let's just do one-on-one for now.
Okay. I was to say, I'm sure I can find someone like Puff or something, but
Yeah, let's just do one-on-one for now.
okay. Alrighty. Well, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, what the fucks, you can contact us in a myriad of ways. I'm not even going to get into it right at the moment. They're out there. We're out there. Trust me. Do a search for Ropai Gamma. You'll find it. I mean, I would hope you already did, because if you'd be listening to this. But anyway. So thank you for joining us this week. Hopefully you will join us next week as we review the Fantasy Flight games Fantasy Flight Games' new Star Wars system. And I have been your GM Byron.
I've been your co-host Howard.
And just remember the motto of Rope High Gamma is roll high, play well, die hard. Oh, great.